So, very good morning to everybody, and once again, a very warm welcome to our Business Spotlight interview series. My name's Ron Maycock. I'm the owner of Action Coach Castleford and Business Performance UK, and I'm delighted this morning to be joined by Steve Carmody. Steve, very good morning to you.
Morning.
It's great to have you with us. Steve is the Managing Director of SCP Infrastructure, and we're going to be hearing lots more from Steve and all about SCP in just a few moments. Before we do that, I really just wanted to explain the purpose of these interviews. We're surrounded by some amazing businesses in our region. They're each on their own journeys, and they've each got their own stories to tell. And these interviews actually help us share those journeys, share those stories, share their achievements. And we do this all in the name of maximizing their exposure and in the words of abundance. So the more people that can find out about SCP and what's actually happening there, then as far as I'm concerned, the better. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Steve. So Steve, do you want to tell me a little bit more about SCP?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ron. Yeah, I'd love to tell you a little bit more about SCP. It's been a personal journey now for 10 years for me. I previously worked at some major sort of consultancies around the world. 10 years ago, I made a decision to set up an office in Leeds and also an office in London around a similar time, off the back of an SCP office that was already based in Manchester. That sort of journey took me from a couple of people on down by the river in Leeds, and is now taking me to about 75 staff nationally. Wow. Across a range of sort of pre-planning and post-planning sort of services across a civil infrastructure market. It's been an exciting journey. It's had its challenges, but it's been very rewarding. And some of those sort of journey today, hopefully I can share a little bit more with you.
Yeah, fantastic. So you said it's sort of projects. Give me an example. What kind of things are you doing?
Yeah, just an example, a local example over at Gaul. We did redevelopment for the Homes and Communities Agency, a very large development, it's like nearly 60 hectares in size. We redeveloped all the platforms, we diverted watercourse, we looked after ecology, mammals, various other things, and now that's currently having, or has had, a Siemens factory built on it, which is actually manufacturing railway for London Underground.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So, in terms of the project, when do you get involved and when do you stop within a project?
Well, the business would get involved right from the first point. So, any developer, landowner, or anybody looking to deliver something, we would get involved from the start. Our offer is an end-to-end service from concept to completion. It's really important for us to do that, to try and give clients value. But what we do is, people that are looking to build something or get planning approval for something, we will look at a site and we'll say how feasible it is or how easy it might be to actually deliver that site from a civil infrastructure perspective. It's obviously very challenging in these days. I mean, we all talk about climate change, we talk about flood risks, issues around flooding and drainage. We do a lot of work in those areas trying to mitigate, manage, and improve the environment to make sure areas aren't flooding, and also the development and the things that we deliver also don't flood.
So you mentioned in there the civil side of things and the sort of infrastructure of. So what don't you do? When you mention something like the Siemens project or whatever, where they built a factory, are you involved with any part of the build, or is it's simply laying the foundations, the groundworks, the flow of every utility in and out of that site, but that's where it stops?
Yeah, as an example of that site with the Siemens factory in Gaul, we worked with the layouts of the roads, all the utilities up to the site boundaries, the drainage, ponds, tanks, attenuations, pump stations, utilities up to plot boundaries, connections into those plot boundaries, the earthworks and levels in and around those plot boundaries, to then allow that development to be progressed. I mean, that site specifically, we were actively engaged within the scheme. And when the scheme got brought to us, we changed the scheme significantly. And one of the things we did, we actually did a 2-kilometre watercourse diversion. And the reason we did that was it actually made a much bigger platform for the site, and the Siemens factory itself would never have been able to be delivered unless the watercourse had been diverted around the edge. So the value we added to the scheme and also the environmental, ecological and sustainable elements that we added by doing the diversion were quite significant. So there's a balance to what I do, is that some of it is actually for developer benefit, but also it's a significant amount of public benefit. And within a lot of the schemes, we're actually delivering cycle facilities, pedestrian facilities, walking routes, other areas, bus facilities, and lots of other provisions, and not just roads. And I think this is a significant change in the industry that I work in, and it has been for the last 10 to 15 years. Actually trying to encourage people to be more active and giving them the facilities to be able to do so is very critical. I mean, as an example of that, one of my team members worked on what is called East Leeds Orbital Route, and he was project manager for that, and that's a £200 million scheme delivered by Leeds City Council. And there's a couple of elements within it. It's not called a road, it's called a route. And the reason it's called a route is because the provision of the cycle facilities and other users is as important as the road itself, and also the equestrian routes and others. So we're changing an industry where everything was dominated by cars to actually other provisions, because we now acknowledge that the change of use to get people out walking socially, actively, helps their health and well-being. Health and well-being is of massive importance in everything we do, and the more we can do that, the better we'll have with our communities and engagements longer term.
I think it's interesting. I'm familiar with that East Leeds scheme, having driven on it and driven round it, and heard obviously the reports of that there's new train stations and whatever all planned, around the sort of shopping and retail areas in that kind of vicinity. So what I'm seeing is Leeds and Leeds City region going from an area that historically was one of the worst places to cycle around in the UK to actually there's a lot more cycle tracks. There's a lot more pedestrian or mixed use cycle, pedestrian and walkways where it actually connects, albeit around an orbital route, which is quite a major road, and you wouldn't really want to be on foot or on a bike around it. But there's plenty of opportunity now, as you were saying, to really change the dynamics of how we interact with this infrastructure. And I'm starting to see that in the results, I guess. So interesting to hear that that's been a journey probably over the last 10 or 15 years, that things have fundamentally changed within the industry. So what else has changed and what's been forced on you? COVID and lockdown was a bizarre time for everyone, not least construction and projects and well, pretty much every industry. Is there anything that you've changed since then, that since your hand was forced, that is now, if you like, the day-to-day modus operandi of how you move forward?
Yeah, I mean, taking it back to COVID was a very interesting time for the business. Actually, with the scale of the business, we were actually quite fleet of foot, and we were actually pretty well positioned. Anyway, we had a lot of remote working already in place. People were already starting to utilise services. Actually, it's probably accelerated the ability to connect across our regions and across the offices we've got. And it's allowed us to grow into more offices, which we're now into Liverpool, Edinburgh, Bristol, looking for other offices in the future. We've realised now that there's no location is no boundary to be able to operate. We want to be local, and the reason we want to be local is because most of our clients are local and they want people to know and aware. But if you take it from the opposite side and you take it from a staff point of view, staff also want to be local. They don't want to be travelling 2 hours to work. I think that gone are the days when people were looking to travel long distances between their sort of jobs. So they want to have that balance in what they do. So that's been a real positive for us. We've been able to do that, and the increase in Teams use, which Teams and other forms of communication can bring its challenges, but it can also bring its benefits if the team are open and collaborative to work with it. I mean, the other side of COVID to me is, and it taught me quite an important message at the time, because when COVID first hit, there was a lot of questions of the industry, especially the construction industry and the civil infrastructure industry, of was it an important emergency service? And at that time, I was working with Manchester City Council, delivering a number of schemes, and those schemes actually continued through that period because they were intrinsically important. And the acknowledgement of the work that we do is generally not seen. So the utilities, the roads, the drainage that we bury in the ground, the other things that we deliver actually are not acknowledged, but are important to everybody every single day. And I think civil engineering as an industry is a very hidden industry. People don't see the sewage treatment plants. They don't always see the electricity generation areas. They don't see the things that give them their day-to-day functions that we have in our houses. And I'm constantly trying to make the average people aware that the lay people understand that without these things and the work that is put in every day by many different parties, we wouldn't have the country we have and the facilities we have.
Mm. And it's interesting with the sort of infrastructure side. So are you working with, I'm assuming these things still exist, but things like the UDPs, the urban development plans, and when you're talking about local authorities, this is future infrastructure, and it might be a 10-year plan that they're working to, or it might be even further out. Is that the sort of thing that you will work on various facets of that, or would that constitute one of your main engagements and main sort of clients?
Yeah, I mean, we work at various levels too. Some of the feasibility when we're looking at sort of development plans across regions and city areas, town areas. We do look at that from a number of areas where we're bringing land forward for future development. Then that's associated with future infrastructure as well. We work closely with sort of key sort of local authorities in the region. An example of that, I mean, we did a planning application approval and design for a new enterprise zone over in Calderdale. That was like nearly £30 million. So that's currently being considered for delivery. But that's important because it creates, I think, up to about 3,000 jobs in a region, which in a lot of areas where maybe the opportunities or the types of jobs that might be coming forward is that these plans actually give that opportunity to be able to deliver that. So it's without the infrastructure, you can't deliver the future. And it shouldn't be seen as a negative being able to do that, but we have to do it sensitively because the balance we have now on sustainability, environment, ecology has to be considered. And we talk regularly now about something called biodiversity net gain. And actually every scheme we're looking to do now has a biodiversity improvement. And we're looking to encompass that in every scheme that we do. We also look to include carbon reduction. So carbon reduction is a clear topic of making sure we're using material appropriately and not using raw material in every opportunity we take. So across a lot of these plans and a lot of these areas, I mean, Leeds or West Yorkshire Combined Authority are talking about Leeds Mass Transit, which funding has been allocated for that, which is a major step forward for the region, is that will connect a lot of the sort of lesser towns around the city where Leeds has always been seen as that central point. But to me, and some of the other roles I have, I'm a governor at Leeds College of Building. I'm also involved in some institutions and associations. Accessibility for young people to be able to access industries is really important. And sometimes it's where you live and what you know, and not the ability because I can't travel, or I can't get connected to something, actually limit your future career opportunities. And transport is becoming much more aware around its role to make sure we give people opportunities. I mean, if you take it back probably 30 years into some of the colliery fields and the mining fields of East and South Yorkshire and across West Yorkshire in certain areas as well, is that some of those towns and cities are only just starting to recover. And the acceleration and giving people opportunity and difference is really important. I mean, personally, my family, my father was a miner, worked in the mines for nearly 50 years. I nearly became a miner, but chose to go to university instead and to become a civil engineer. And I'm glad I did. But that was more through probably look and a little bit of judgment rather than following the family trait and what people know and what people do around them, which is what a lot of people do in their careers, is that they have somebody they know that does something and they then go and do it. Well, I'm a big believer in the equality, diversity, inclusion, and trying to break down those barriers and bringing differences of views into our world. And some of the discussions we're now currently having around, especially when we deliver schemes, infrastructure schemes, it's not about the average person you speak to. It's those communities that don't speak and getting those people engaged, those people that are most disconnected and most unable to have a voice. And that can be whether it be cultural sort of differences, that can be age differences, demographic differences. And actually, that's why we need to bring different people into our industry to bring those differences of views and not the same view as we've always had. And that will give us a better place longer term, and it will give us much more connected transport and infrastructure that's there for the people to use, not as a function of something that people believe is right but doesn't give the right service.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of the local aspect, I guess, is one differentiator, but what makes SCP unique?
SCP, its uniqueness, it's end-to-end service across a smallish business, small to medium-sized business, which we're working in markets against what I would consider global multinational businesses. That's where we compete against. We don't compete against small businesses, sort of one-man limited businesses. That's not our market. We like challenging schemes and technically challenging the better. So whether it's got ground condition issues, geotechnical problems, contamination, drainage issues, we like things that are interesting but also offer benefits. So we have the second part on the sale to us is really about the quality of the staff. We have hundreds and hundreds of years experience in our senior staff. And those people are all passionate about their local area and local regions, wherever our offices may be, which brings significant benefit to our clients. So that is important because local context in everything we do is important to achieve better outcome. I mean, to be able to offer that service and not to dilute it down to the bottom level, because as I said almost at the start, I'd worked in some major consultancies around the world, and we're not a numbers business, we're a people business, and it's all about the people and the service we offer, and the quality of the service we offer is critical to what we do. And I don't want to lose that. It's not about businesses where I know large businesses where they're looking for things like you may not have heard of a scheme called NEOM in the Middle East. It's a 70-kilometre new residential scheme in a long linear line across the desert. Well, that's not the kind of scheme we want to work on. That's not really for me. The good, strong local schemes offer benefit and something I can deliver tangibly that people can see reward for is where myself, my staff, and hopefully our clients want to work.
Absolutely. And as a business, as an industry, what are the biggest challenges that you face at the moment?
Resource is a critical issue across all areas, and that's not just my business as a consultancy business, but also as a construction industry. The construction industry in itself has not had enough influx of young people and training across those young people over many years. It's not been regarded as a good, strong, viable industry for people to join, which is surprising when the salaries for labour, skilled labour and consultancy are all actually very good. And a lot of people can have very good, strong careers in the construction industry. And the other positive about the industry is that it gives all levels of education and people ability. So whether you're good with your hands or whether you're good with your head, there's always a role in this industry. And I would encourage more and more people to come into it because of the strength and depth that there is out there of what you can do. I appreciate people may not wish to work outside every day of the year in the cold, middle of winter, as we discuss this now, Ron. But I think the benefits of what you deliver and the outcomes of what you deliver are far outweigh the sort of impacts of the role itself.
No, absolutely. And it sounds like, if you like, that kind of mindset, that kind of approach to this is serving the local community first and foremost, actually negates the need for people down the line to say, I'm moving down south or wherever to find a job. That they can actually stay where they're from, or somewhere close to there, and actually have an impact directly on their local economy and the people that they know. So it's a very good way of looking at it. I suppose a final question then. So we were talking beforehand that there's been a bit of a rebrand, if you like. So you've now got transport and infrastructure within SCP. What's the future hold? What's next? What are the plans? Where do you see it going?
The future's actually pretty positive at the moment. We've had significant growth. I mean, I think I mentioned at the start, we started with 2 people 10 years ago, 70 odd now. We're looking at doubling that size in the next 5 years across the business to about 150, but on equitable levels across various regions and offices. Very important to get that balance right. I don't want one strong office and weaker offices. I want everybody together. But the markets and opportunities that also grows, we know, and I know with my senior leaders, that there's more and more opportunity out there. What I do want to see is more local authority engagement with small and medium-sized enterprises, and I want them to acknowledge more the opportunities that they could pass on. Because, as you mentioned before, the key for me is I want to employ people locally. I want them to live locally. I want them to spend locally, which everything is cyclic. And then longer term, those people's experiences and careers affect other young people around them. And then we have a longer term change to what we do. That's the fundamental to me, is if we can continue to change other people's opinions of the industry and bring other people in. And we've done a significant amount of that over years with apprentices and graduates. And I want to continue doing that. I think I'll leave a good legacy for people, that the careers are there for people in this industry.
Yeah, fantastic. And that passion for doing the right things rather than just chasing the big projects and going, locking horns with businesses that have far more traction, far more scale, and can deal with the bigger projects, I think is a great niche and a great way of looking at it, because it keeps it local, but it doesn't negate the opportunity. And I think what we're seeing, especially, I can't speak for other areas, but what I'm seeing from sort of West Yorkshire Combined Authority and things like that, is that they're trying to support the local businesses as much as possible. But it is a transition, because historically they have gone to the big players to do a lot of the big infrastructure stuff. There are certain moves recently where we're saying, well, actually, if we're going to support the local economy, well, let's do that as a concerted effort and bring the right people in who are local to support their own communities. And I think that transition, it's only just starting, but I'm starting to see a little bit more of it. There's more opportunity for other people rather than just this old go onto that tender kind of tick box exercise where you've got to have scale, otherwise you just can't even compete. Even if your service is at a higher level, it was just a tick box exercise. So really exciting times ahead. And I think the model that you're talking about of having strength regionally in every area where they have strength within that area is a great model to move forward with. So thank you for sharing that. So that does bring us towards the end of the interview. Just a quick sense check, just to see if there's anything that we've not covered or anything that you'd like to add, Steve, before we do wrap things up.
No, I think that's covered everything for me, Ron. It's much appreciated, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
No, well, I really appreciate you sharing. And as we said, it is the purpose of this is to make more people aware of what you're doing and what the sort of great steps forward that we're actually seeing with our local economy and businesses in our region. So thank you for sharing that. So if, like Steve, you want to share your journey, if you want to get in touch when we post these interviews, we always put ways of getting in touch so you can record your own, you can share your own journey, share your own achievements. But once again, a thank you to Steve. Thank you for joining us. Just to show that this is live, I'm going to wish everyone a happy Christmas, happy New Year. We're only a few days away from the end of the working week before the build up. So really do hope everyone has a fantastic time over this period of the year. And once again, thank you for everyone who's been watching yet another of our Business Spotlight interviews, and we'll see you soon. Take care.